Okay, we're going to dig further into the decision to remove the GST on new rental apartment builds. Kevin Lee is the CEO of the Canadian Home Builders Association, and he joins me now. Mr. Lee, it's good to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So you've been calling for this GST move ahead of today. What's your reaction to what the government announced today and other provinces who said they're signing on too?
Well, it's a really important move, and we're really pleased to see it happening. It's actually something that we've been calling for many, many years. What's called the business model, if you will, of purpose-built rental has not been working for a long time because of the taxation regime around it. And we do need a lot more purpose-built rental, especially with interest rates where they are. So this move is very important, very timely, so that we can get rental units built to house people in Canada.
Can you quantify this for me? I saw one developer in Calgary on Twitter, so I don't know how much stock to put in it, saying that he feels this move alone could unlock 1,000 units that he has approved and just hasn't been able to move forward because the math doesn't work for him. How many across the country, like how many units could this help potentially create?
Well, I think, right now we've already seen, because of interest rates right now, probably tens of thousands of units put on hold. And so we expect those to start to come back online in the near future. And I would think, given that the duration of this, we expect to be many, many years, it will result in, hopefully literally hundreds of thousands of units coming on that might not otherwise have happened.
What do you say, though, to skeptics who may look at this and say it's a tax break? And that maybe the developers will just pocket that extra money and people won't actually see a drop in the rental bill once these units are built?
Well, I think the fundamental thing that we have to talk about here is not about, the cost of rent. It's actually units being built at all. And that's what was not happening because, as you mentioned earlier, these projects didn't pencil out. So this isn't about pocketing a benefit. This is about actually creating an environment where the projects can be built because they're actually costing the right amount, low enough, if you will, with the elimination of GST, that now you can afford to build it and charge a rent that people can actually afford. So it's quite the opposite. It's not about pocketing the money. It's about creating a viable product in the marketplace that wouldn't happen otherwise.
So you've been calling for this for years, and they've announced that they are going to move ahead with this. Is going to be a piece of legislation when Parliament returns next week. What else can the federal government do to help on the rental side and just the housing side in general, building on the announcement we saw in London yesterday that will help build a couple of thousand new units?
Well, as you've rightly pointed out, we need to help all forms of housing, all forms of tenure. Certainly, this is very good. Purpose-built rental is an important part of the marketplace. Unfortunately, because we have home ownership rates dropping, they've dropped from what was close to 70% home ownership rate in 2011 to down to about 66% in 2021. And no doubt that's dropped since. We get those numbers through the census. That only happens every 5 years. So we also need measures that are going to help home ownership, obviously, and first-time buyers. So especially with today's interest rate environment, but even hopefully interest rates will come back to normal. But even then, in order to help people buy, we still are big proponents of providing 30-year amortization periods for insured mortgages for first-time buyers. It just allows the first-time buyer to be able to finance the houses of today. We need to focus on supply, so that accelerator fund work and other work by municipalities is going to be really important to help get more housing built, because we have this supply-demand imbalance that drives up prices. And related to the GST, taxation at all levels needs to come down, and
Right.
The highest tax increases have been at the municipal level of about 700% in the past 20 years. So we need development taxes to come down at the local level as well.
Okay, that's kind of where I wanted to go with the next question. I mean, the political pressures on the federal government, right? I mean, you pay attention to this, you can see it just like we can. But the federal government can only do so much because the municipal governments play a massive role in this, as do provincial governments. So, I mean, what are the biggest impediments right now? What's the biggest thing that needs to change that can really unlock what appears to be a collective desire for a housing boom in this country? Or at least a building boom?
Yeah, we do need a building boom because we've had the opposite of a building boom for the past couple of decades. I mean, if we need to more than double housing starts to make up a 3.5 million housing deficit, that's not something that happened overnight. That's been coming for a while. So it will take all three levels of government, as you've said. The federal government needs to do its part, and we're continuing to push on things like that. We need support for labor. We need more immigration to be able to build more houses because we have a very acute labor shortage in residential construction. But then, at the municipal level, which is a big place we focus on because they hold so many of the keys to unlocking, for example, more land, zoning and adjusting zoning requirements, making sure NIMBYism doesn't prevent the addition of new units, particularly to, new neighborhoods, gentle densification that will enable slightly higher buildings, maybe multi-unit residential, maybe duplexes, that kind of thing, even garden homes and laneway suites. And we are seeing some municipalities start to make that possible. So we need an all hands on deck approach to all of this, and make sure that permitting, zoning, and even the regulatory environment around building codes. There's so much going into building codes right now. It's all going to drive up the price of housing. So we're going to need some innovation, and we're going to have to be careful to make sure we don't put so much into building codes that people can't afford to buy the houses that we'd love to build. Okay, Kevin Lee, CEO of the Canadian Home Builders Association. Thanks for your time. Anytime. Thank you.